All right, let's jump right in. We've all heard it a million times, right? Transparency is the key to trust, in science, in government, you name it. But what if that whole idea is not just a little bit off, but actually dangerously wrong? We're going to explore the really weird and counterintuitive link between being open and being trusted. I want you to just sit with this question for a second, because it really gets to the heart of this whole thing. We just assume honesty builds trust, period. But the evidence, well, it suggests that for big, complicated things like science, being totally honest can do the exact opposite. It's a real head-scratcher. And yeah, there's actually a name for this puzzle: the transparency paradox. It's this fundamental conflict where one of the core values of science, being open, can totally backfire when it meets public opinion. Let's break down exactly how that can even happen. So this lays out the battle perfectly. On one hand, transparency should make us trust science more. It shows they're playing by the rules, it cuts down on bias, it makes science itself more trustworthy. But then, on the other hand, the research shows it often makes us trust science less. Why? Because it pulls back the curtain and shows us the messy, human reality of it all. The arguments, the conflicts of interest, the uncertainty. And that just shatters the perfect image we have in our heads.
And this right here is a super crucial distinction we have to make. Trustworthiness, that's an objective thing. Is the process solid? Is the data good? But trust, that's just a feeling. It's subjective. And we all know feelings and facts don't always line up. A huge part of the paradox is that we mix these two up. We assume if you make science more trustworthy, people will automatically trust it more. And that, as we're seeing, is a huge, huge mistake.
And look, this isn't just a theory. This happens in the real world all the time. Take the Sunshine Act. It made doctors disclose payments from pharmaceutical companies. You'd think that's a good thing, right? More trustworthy. But nope, public trust in doctors actually went down. Or remember ClimateGate? Leaked emails showed scientists arguing, doing science, and the public screamed conspiracy. Even with AI, the more an AI explains itself, the less people trust it. It's wild.
So what gives? If being transparent keeps backfiring, what's really going on? Well, it turns out maybe we've been blaming the wrong thing. Maybe the problem isn't transparency. Maybe the problem is us. This quote, even though it's from the 70s, just nails what researchers call the storybook image of a scientist. You know the one, this flawless, objective genius who's above all the petty human stuff. It's a really powerful myth, and if we're being honest, a lot of us still kind of believe it. And yep, here's the thing. That whole storybook image, it's a complete myth, a fantasy. Science is a human thing. It's messy. It's driven by passion. It's full of mistakes and arguments and course corrections. In fact, some of the most successful scientists are often the most difficult people, not these quiet, humble geniuses. Let's just look at ClimateGate again through this lens. When those emails leaked, people saw phrases like "hide the decline" and immediately thought, aha, a conspiracy. But in reality, that was just nerdy technical jargon for dealing with some tricky data. It was a normal, if maybe poorly worded, part of the scientific grind. 8 different official investigations found 0 misconduct. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Transparency showed people how the sausage was made, and they were horrified.
Okay, so if the public punishes science for showing its messy human side, what's the logical solution to this whole paradox? Well, the answer gets pretty uncomfortable, to say the least.
Here's the key insight. The problem isn't the act of being transparent. The problem is the stuff you're being transparent about. It's not the open window that hurts. It's what people see when they look inside. And this chart just lays it all out. When institutions are transparent about good news, stuff that fits our perfect storybook image, trust shoots way up. Great. If they're secretive, trust is low. No surprises there. But look at that last bar. When they are transparent about bad news, trust doesn't just dip, it absolutely plummets. It's even worse than just being secretive in the first place.
And we have to be really clear what bad news means here. We're not talking about evil, malicious stuff. Bad news is simply anything that doesn't fit the perfect fairy tale. A doctor has a financial conflict of interest? Bad news. A scientific theory has some uncertainty? Bad news. Scientists are arguing? That's bad news too, because it shatters the myth of perfection.
So, if the public only rewards transparency when the news is good, what's the most effective way to keep public trust? The cold, grim, logical answer is to lie. Just walk through the logic with me. It's grim, but follow it. 1. The public only trusts good news. 2. Real science is full of messy bad news. 3. So to keep their trust, you can only ever show them good news, which leads to the unavoidable, awful conclusion, 4, if reality is bad news, you have to invent good news. You have to lie.
Now, obviously, this sounds completely insane. And it is. This solution is just a thought experiment. But it's a really useful one, because when you follow this logic all the way down, it leads somewhere truly disturbing. So let's head down that rabbit hole for a minute.
Because there is, of course, one massive, fatal flaw in this whole lie to maintain trust strategy. What happens when people inevitably find out they've been lied to?
Well, the fallout would be apocalyptic. Not just a dip in trust, we're talking a total, catastrophic collapse of trust in science, medicine, government, everything. Conspiracy theories would explode, and honestly, for good reason. There would be a conspiracy. The only way you could even try to prevent getting caught is with some kind of massive, state-controlled propaganda machine. It gets very dystopian very fast.
And the researcher who developed this whole idea, BVE Hyde, says it themselves, it's a farcical rabbit hole. This is not a real proposal. The point isn't to say we should lie. The point is to show that our whole way of thinking about this is so broken that lying somehow ends up seeming like a logical answer.
So, if lying is a one-way ticket to a dystopia, what's the real solution? Well, it's not some clever PR trick to manage how people feel. It's about actually curing the disease in the relationship between science and the public, not just treating the symptoms.
This slide just lays out the two paths perfectly. On the left, you've got the short-term fix. Lie, keep the fairy tale going, and just pray you don't get caught. On the right, you have the long-term solution. It's way harder, but it's the only one that actually works. It means we have to actively teach people how science really works, warts and all. It means we have to destroy the storybook image on purpose so we can build a more mature, resilient trust in an imperfect but incredibly powerful process.
So what does that mature view of science actually look like? Well, it means getting a few key ideas into our heads. Like, science doesn't really prove anything in an absolute sense. It just builds a super strong case based on evidence. It means accepting that uncertainty isn't a failure, it's just a normal part of discovery. It's about seeing a conflict of interest and thinking, okay, let's scrutinize this, not, aha, fraud. And most of all, it's just remembering that scientists are people.
So let's bring it all home. This whole transparency paradox, it's just a symptom of a much deeper problem. Transparency is not the enemy. The real problem is that our relationship with science is broken. We treat it like it's supposed to be magic, and then we get mad when we find out it's made by humans.
And that leaves us with the final big question. And this isn't on scientists to fix their PR. This one's on us, on society, to change our expectations. Can we finally move past the fairy tale? Can we learn to trust the messy, difficult, but ultimately amazing process of an imperfect human science? Because that's the real challenge ahead of us.